Star Wars Battlefront is better than Star Wars Battlefront 2. I know there are very few people that will agree with me on this, but please realize right off the bat, I am not trying to convince the majority of you to change your mind. I really want to see where everyone else's head is at regarding the things I have to bring up pertaining to my grievances with the game, and what I love about them both. And if somehow, someway, there is a company out there considering making a Battlefront 3, then I hope maybe some of these thoughts can be brought to their discussion table when they start planning the game out. These games have some of the most criticized histories of any games maybe ever. It seems the communities love where Battlefront 2 is at now, but I still like Battlefront 1 more. It's so tough to figure out where to start with this content, but I think it makes the most sense to start off with the differences between your soldiers when you are playing as a base character. That would be a normal spawn-in in Battlefront 2015, or an assault, heavy, officer, or specialist in Battlefront 2 in 2017. The first thing you notice differently when playing the games back to back is that the aiming in Battlefront 2 has way harsher penalties than Battlefront 1. My favorite part of Battlefront 1 is that there is no hipfire penalties on guns that aren't spread shot, meaning lasers go exactly where you target them to go aiming down sights or not. And I feel that that is kind of how it should be in Battlefront. Because it's futuristic technology, the weapons should be ridiculously precise. And it also adds what I interpret as a good skill gap, where you can win gunfights because you don't need to ADS first like other players may need to, who are less accurate. And I'll just add that I am a controller player for anyone wondering. I didn't like them making guns less precise in their accuracy for Battlefront 2. I didn't understand that change. They also seemingly increased recoil on weapons as well, which I don't really fully understand because they're shooting laser beams. But maybe it had something to do with them introducing classes to the game as a part of balance. I hate the idea of classes in Star Wars Battlefront though. I know it was a part of the originals, but those games were made in a completely different era than we exist now in gaming. Most people are playing online, and that means that a game made with single player and at most split screen in mind should not necessarily have the same game mechanics, even though I love those games as well. I'm going to go ahead and say that Star Wars Battlefront as a video game series is not a series that is thriving on realism in the Star Wars universe, and because of that I really don't love adding different classes to the game that say what I can use and what I cannot combined. The Battlefront 2015 system is just better. It gives me more of something that closely resembles something like the Call of Duty Pick 10 system than a Battlefield class system for a game like Battlefront. And if you're going to say something about decreasing skins available in the game, no, just make players able to just use whatever archetype skin you want with whatever loadout you want in the game. Meaning, if a clone sniper is dressed as a heavy in our Playground Star Wars game, I don't think it is a big deal. And the devs on Battlefront 2 kind of agree, because you can run around as a strong Jedi Luke Skywalker in his beginning of A New Hope attire. And to be clear, that is not a knock on Battlefront 2. The skins in the game are awesome. I just wish there were even more. The Heavy and the initial release of the Specialist also bring up another huge issue I had with the introduction of classes in Battlefront 2, which begins to start to discuss the differences in health between characters. I don't know why health differences would be something that is desired by players. Don't make classes, and especially don't make classes have differences in health. I just don't care for it. Continuing on the issues with health in Battlefront 2, heroes can regenerate health in Battlefront 2, and heroes could not regenerate health in Battlefront 1 with the exception of Bossk. And I think that was a much better way of going about having these heroes on the Battlefront. Seeing a 1,000 player kill streak by someone on YouTube with Anakin on Battlefront 2 is nothing like seeing someone go on a streak in Battlefront 1. There was no retreating to heal up at all, and even though Bossk could heal up, you had to be on the enemy to keep regaining health fast enough to not die with him. Honestly, one of the worst changes that ruined kill streaks in Battlefront 1 was when they added the ability for the back-to-bomb to give heroes an additional 10 health no matter what health level they were at. This also applies to the reinforcements they added to Battlefront 2 as well. The reinforcements in Battlefront 1 couldn't heal up, and it felt balanced because of that. They had powerful weapons, maybe double the health of regular troopers, but couldn't heal up to keep it balanced. The heroes and sidekicks that cost points in Battlefront 2 are also just annoying to me. Supremacy is the worst because it feels like after the first 5 minutes of the game, every actual player has accumulated enough battle points to either keep spawning in as a hero or a side reinforcement. I will admit though, some maps feel worse than others as well. Not to mention, they went about that in the worst way possible by also adding bots to multiplayer lobbies, and they are all over the place. Don't get me wrong, if there were a total of 8 players in all of North America, where I'm at, playing Battlefront 2 currently, then I would be genuinely happy that I'm still able to join a game and play like it is a full lobby since there aren't enough actual people playing the game. But we know there are plenty of people still playing the game. So having a game where nobody in online games is playing as a base character and there are tons of bots running around ruins that type of experience for me. And this bot thing is becoming far too common in online games. So I just saw Jack Frags put a video out on that topic for solos in Warzone. There were very few bot type things that would kill you in Battlefront 1 2015. One was the AT-AT and Walker Assault that would still target you even if no actual person was controlling it, and I hated that. And the others were turrets, R5 droids, and Viper probe droids. I hated them all. I could have dealt with special turret pickups once in a while, but having multiple turrets for pickups seemed excessive to me. I was at least okay with 9 Num having a turret because it was a special hero ability, and I liked that heroes felt powerful. But then in Battlefront 2, they gave turrets to anyone who spawned in as an officer, and I have no idea why they did that. Hero design is also something I have real beef with in Battlefront 2. I don't feel I need to dig into this too much, but half-second stuns in Battlefront 1, where you may get pushed back slightly, felt fine to me, while multi-stun combos in Battlefront 2 while you're playing as a hero that gets you knocked down to the ground just feels sad to me. Along with the idea that being thrown off maps as a hero just makes the hero gameplay feel worse in Battlefront 2 to me. Not to mention lightsabers are not necessarily a one-hit kill on base troopers in Battlefront 2, but how big of a deal is that if no other real human ever even has to play as a base trooper? The battle points were perceived by the community to be an upgrade from hero pickups, but I hate both of them frankly. When I'm an experienced player, I realize I need to play as an officer in Battlefront 2 to be sure I accumulate battle points as fast as possible, along with playing in a particular style, and then maybe sit in the menu and spam wait for the one I want to become available if I didn't earn enough points in time. Or in Battlefront 1, I camp out and don't really play the game, and I'm just waiting for the hero pickup to spawn. I don't like either system. Both encourage playing the game a way that I don't desire to play in, and most people probably wouldn't desire to play in. This is the one suggestion I would throw in here from the old games, where you just kind of randomly ask people if they would like to play as a hero on screen. And I'd like to limit it to 1 per team on large game modes. Have no bots in a multiplayer match, and potentially even only have special troopers join particular heroes that they come with, or at least limit them more. I mean, imagine if every time you spawned in as Anakin or Ahsoka, someone had the opportunity to join you as Captain Rex. But maybe you feel like he should be his own hero, so you spawn in as Rex and can be joined by other special clone units. You could also do the same for a select number of vehicles per team on large game modes. Just randomly ask across the screen at any point if people would like to play as a walker, tank, or ship, and try to limit that to 3 per team at any time, so we can assume in a 20v20 game that at all times, 75% of the match will still be playing as base troopers. I liked having bonus power-ups in the game too, like thermal imploders in Battlefront 1, and they just got rid of the special power-ups for Battlefront 2 in terms of pickups that you could pick up as a base trooper, when I think they could have just put them in crates around the map like in Battlefront 2's campaign, rather than having those special power-up icons spread on the screen like they did in Battlefront 1. There's another simple thing I don't really care for, and that is having upgradable abilities in the menus for heroes based on playing with them. I like unlocking stuff for my base trooper as I level up, like weapons and star cards, but I hate having to upgrade Palpatine to max power. Heroes can have unlockables, track stats, and have ranks, but don't have them be actual power upgrades or modifiers. Have them be skins, emotes, or anything else like that doesn't affect the combat ability. This may seem like a small detail too, but I just want to mention it. I liked less foliage to hide in Battlefront 1. And to generalize that more, the map design in either game was far from perfect, but the foliage and other elements of Battlefront 2 made me like a number of the elements a bit less. But the Bespin DLC from Battlefront 1 may have been some of the best combinations of map designs ever. But then you play Bespin on Battlefront 2 and you're probably just going to get thrown off the map if you're playing heroes versus villains. There are two other things that come to mind with Battlefront 2 that just don't make sense to me. Everybody clamored for a campaign, and I just don't think people understand that getting a campaign does not mean it will be a good one. I replayed it recently, and the boots on the ground stuff with Iden is okay, but it just overall seems pretty bland to me. Partially because of the marketing before the game released. People were missing it from the old games because you weren't playing online back in those days anyways, so you may have had more of a reason to want to go back and replay the campaign. But even with that being said, I think people were more interested in building on the clone relationships with the Jedi in 2005's Star Wars Battlefront 2 than they were about this new character Iden. Not to mention, she has a daughter that apparently was in and around the Resistance, but we never see anything else about her up to this point, and I don't think we will see anything about her in the future. I was excited before this campaign was released because it talked about seeing things from an Imperial perspective for once as our protagonist, but of course they had to flip her to a good guy fairly quickly to ruin potentially the most interesting part of the story they had for the campaign. I will give the game credit. I like the battle scenario challenges, and it is generally a better single player experience than Battlefront 1, but Battlefront 1 had some high quality quick missions, and survival missions in Battlefront 1 are something that I think could have been built on so well for the future of the game based on where they could have taken them to for a more replayable offline experience. The next mode I just really can't understand, and it has a bunch of stuff that I feel like could be pulled over from what I said before, is the mode called Starfighter Assault. The truth is that if you were playing the Bespin DLC in a lobby in 2016 on Battlefront 1, you would realize 90% of the people do not care about Starfighter Assault at all. And I can say that because 90% of the people would leave the lobby when that game mode popped up in the Bespin DLC. Most people wanted to keep playing boots on the ground. Here's a nice comparison between the largest YouTube videos and Reddits for Star Wars Battlefront versus Star Wars Squadrons. It is not to say that there's no audience for this content, and the Millennium Falcon scenes in Empire Strikes Back are some of my favorite Star Wars scenes, but this audience just isn't as large, and I think they devote far too much time to it. Battle Station was a great mode in Battlefront 2015 in my opinion, but I don't think many people enjoyed that DLC. And with that being said, I feel the proper way to have ships be available in Battlefront is either to use them as transports to get to an enemy capital ship and board it and have boots on the ground in an enemy capital ship or your own capital ship, or have few fighters in the sky above the battle like in most Walker Assault maps in Battlefront 2015. I just think they've devoted far too many resources to these modes, especially in Battlefront 2, when I just don't think the audience is that large for the game modes with no boots on the ground combat at all. Last thing about the heroes in Star Wars Battlefront 2. One of the things that really bothers me too is the fact that in Battlefront 1, you could dash in the air with Luke Skywalker's dash ability. You could jump up and dash. But even more so, the stupidity of being able to be thrown off the map in Battlefront 2 2017 bothers me even more because of the fact that if I'm starting to be thrown off as somebody like Darth Maul and he has that dash ability, I can't use that dash ability like I could in Battlefront 2015 to recover while falling through the air, like to actually make it back up onto a platform or something. And I just think all the Jedi should be able to use their Force abilities in the air. Jedi, Sith, Force users in general. But with all that being said, what could a future for Star Wars Battlefront look like? I'd like to start this in a weird spot because I think most people had issues with the idea of Star Wars Battlefront 2015 only taking place during the original trilogy. I think they felt that our favorite era of Star Wars, meaning you and me, probably the type of people that would watch this YouTube video, the prequels were being disrespected in 2015. And I think genuinely the boomers at Disney had to shake the idea for a long time that people actually did care for and enjoy the prequels, as they were far too old to understand that perspective at the time. But I would suggest going back to an era-based model for the game, but this time we start with our favorite era in the prequel era. The reason for this is because I believe limiting the time range allows them to really go deep on every era. No way they could fit all the Clone Wars content they wanted to in the most recent Battlefront II, because they also had to put in content for the other eras. This could start a new golden age of the content for Battlefront games, with games for each era. And no one will make you stop playing the prequel era game when the Empire era game comes out if you want to keep playing in the prequels. We can plan ahead to have 3 games. First one could be called something like Star Wars Battlefront Age of the Republic. And then 3 to 4 years later, when we've completed the game's life cycle, we go to Star Wars Battlefront Age of the Empire. And 3 to 4 years later, we go to Star Wars Battlefront Rise of the Resistance, or something like that. So what are the key aspects of the games? Like I said, base troopers' health will all be the same. Loadouts are fully customizable and not attached to specific classes. Weapons are completely accurate to where your reticle is pointing, regardless of ADS or not. Recoil on weapons is very limited. Heroes, specialists, and vehicles are strong, but don't regenerate health, and are randomly given to people through prompts. They are also immediately reassigned when one player is defeated to a new player on your team. Hero stuns are drastically reduced, like Darth Vader being able to be thrown across the room and flail his arms like a toddler. If there's a campaign, there will be a truly worthwhile story to tell. Maybe try to repurpose an unused script for a movie or show, or even just make the campaign an alternate timeline for the era it is in. Prequel era? What if Anakin didn't turn to the dark side? Game modes that include starfighters will not force you to stay in a vehicle. You can defend the interior of your capital ship, attack the interior of the enemy capital ship, or fight in the skies with the starfighters while attacking and defending the exteriors of the capital ships. Now, I'm just thinking about redesigning Battle Station from the Death Star DLC in Battlefront 2015, which was still a good game mode, but how it could have been made even better. Single player will have the ability to play online modes just offline, but there will be an offline co-op mode that sees the return of survival. One of the things that could have made survival better from Battlefront 2015 is not having any limit on the waves. Setting a no wave cap makes the game mode very replayable to compare to things like campaign or other things like that. Also add a leaderboard to compete with your friends. Here's a few scenarios to imagine. Imagine being Gungans defending against a never-ending onslaught of droids on Naboo, or being Anakin, Obi-Wan, or Padme defending against never-ending waves of enemies attacking you in the Geonosian arena, and seeing how many waves you can beat compared to your friends. Or even, and this is the one that I would be most excited for as a survival mode, being a Jedi Knight against the clones storming the Jedi Temple during Order 66, and seeing how many waves you could survive. I'm just sticking to this stuff because the first game is in the prequels era, but we could even expand into Clone Wars content for more survival ideas. Think about the bugs on Geonosis. It'd be a great offline co-op mode, and one new survival map could come out for each big update. Hopefully there would be 6 to 7 survival maps at the end of the new content support for each game. Multiplayer though, how's that look? I've already talked a bit about how I would like a few of the general structures to look, but one of the nice things about sticking to one era is that we can have loaded rosters of heroes and villains. Here's a 16 hero, 16 villain roster for a potential prequel era game exclusively, and I can't imagine playing a 16 versus 16 heroes versus villains match with all of these players involved. And then, not to mention, Like I said earlier, you may notice that Captain Rex isn't included in that, but what if our special characters that are reinforcements for the Republic are all specific people, while the droids or Separatists just get their generic super battle droids, droidicas, commando droids, and Magna Guards. You could even add a free-for-all game mode, being that it's the prequel era. You could introduce the context from the episode that is titled The Box in Star Wars The Clone Wars by saying that's a free-for-all game mode. The Clone Wars and prequels offer huge opportunities for creativity, and it would be awesome. It'd be awesome to get a solid number of planets too, if we can, by prioritizing having fewer maps per planet, but more planets total. Personally, maps I'd like to see in order would be Mandalore, Coruscant, Christophsis, Utapau, Mustafar, Megiddo, and Ryloth. Plus, all the prequel ones we saw in Battlefront II 2017. I'd also love if focusing on one era enough meant that we could actually be really detailed on the redo of Naboo for the new game, for instance. That's just one example, but all I mean by that is that the armies representing Naboo are the actual Naboo armies, and they fight against the Separatists rather than the clones being on Naboo. Remember, this is just a rough outline though, and it's about what a first game could look like, and how much more they could play with in that first era, and all the other eras by having this be a series. But lastly and most importantly, how does post-launch support look? Post-launch support is only able to consistently happen if companies keep making money off of a game. I don't mind the idea of going back to season passes and 4 DLC models of the past. Just make the content free after a year if people haven't purchased it by a year after its release. But I realize that is not what other people want, which is why I would just say add as many paid hero skins as is humanly possible. Add 2 skins every so often, and make sure that one can be earned and one can be purchased. It will make them money, but not ruin anyone's game if they don't have the skins, or even emotes if they wanted to add them to a store as well. The skins in Battlefront 2 are one of my favorite parts of the 2017 game, and I have to give them props there. I only wish I had an X-Wing pilot Luke one, but remember, like I said, we as players continuing to buy stuff will mean continued support for a game, and that is what we all want. So, cosmetics are the best options. Please let me know what you think you agree with and disagree with in the comments section, and please subscribe.
So, if you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching.
2020 president candidate.